Hi everybody, I'm going to be making a video about doing a keychain like I promised. I'm going to be using the Paul Print acrylic today. I'm probably going to be giving this as a gift, so what I figured I would do is make this for a friend. It basically has, I'm going to do it in glitter with UV resin. I'm going to do it in 3 different colors. I decided that I'm going to do like an ombre effect to show everyone how to do that. Her dog is brown and white with maybe a little bit of black in him, so I decided to use these colors just to kind of match it up just a bit. And then I'll use white vinyl and put Fur Mama on it, so I think it will be cute. I think she'll like it. So basically I wanted to show you, I start off with, you have to pull off this clear covering on it. I use my pin pen, any kind of like sharp object to pull that off. We'll pull that off. When you get these acrylics, you're going to have that like smoky look. I always leave this one on because if I decide I'm going to do epoxy of any kind or UV resin or even some people like to use triple thick, if it runs over to the back, it's easier to pull this back off and then it's not on your actual acrylic. Excuse me. And then you always want to clean your surface with alcohol so that everything sticks properly. Why are we not focusing? Sorry. So clean it really well. I don't usually use a tissue to do this. I usually use either like those lint-free makeup pads or coffee filters, something that won't leave a lint trace. I just happen to not have any at the moment, and I think this tissue is better than using paper towel. Paper towel definitely will make a mess with that. I'm gonna change my paper because it's messy from before. Okay, so I have poured some Mod Podge in a Dixie cup, and I'm using just one of those foam brushes that you can get at the dollar store or anywhere really. They're pretty easily found. You don't dip a lot. You do not need a lot of Mod Podge, especially for the first layer. You're going to do 2 layers on this. I'm going to do 3 different colors. So basically, I'll just run. It doesn't have to be in a straight line or anything like that, but I run the Mod Podge over top wherever I want that first layer to be. And I only do 1 layer at a time. If you have too much Mod Podge on your acrylic, your glitter is going to clump up and it won't dry properly. And a lot of times I find that if I'm having any kind of issues with lifting of any of the Mod Podge, the acrylic or, no, the UV resin or the epoxy, what happens is it gets, it's probably going to be from that. It's probably going to be from some sort of non-drying of the Mod Podge or your whatever you're using. Some people use hairspray. I don't think that works. For me personally, it does not work. It lifts too much. It doesn't have that. It doesn't have like that enough of an adhesive property to it. So you just put the glitter all over it in the section you want it to stay. Put a generous amount on. You're going to save this anyway and put it back into your little tube, your glitter thing. Now I take it and pat it down just lightly. I don't sit and rub it or anything. Obviously that would not do well on the Mod Podge, but I rub it down. Make sure it's on the edges of your piece well, so it's getting into that Mod Podge. Again, like I said, you're going to do a second layer, so it's not really that big of a deal. And then what I do is I just tap it off. Now you see that is very, very thin. I mean, you can see through it you can see the paper. So you're going to definitely need at least one more coat. Sometimes two, depending on the glitter. If the glitter's kind of opaque, sometimes you'll need extra, another layer. So, and then once I pop that off, I save my glitter. No use in wasting it. Now, with the, it's not really an ombre effect. I don't really call it an ombre effect, but a slight ombre effect, because I want to kind of mesh these colors together. A lot of times, what I'll do is I'll save the glitter in these big Dixie cups instead of putting them back into the thing it came in, because I mix them to make an in-between layer that it kind of like blends them together really well. I didn't get enough of that glitter off, but it's okay. And then basically you want to do the next one. Now you can wipe this off so you're not getting too much glitter on your stick for the Mod Podge. But on a Mod Podge, I don't know why I always call it Mod Podge. But basically you're going to go to the next section, whatever section you're going to do the next color in. And again, like I said, you don't want too much on there. Enough for it to stick, for sure, but you don't want so much that it's gonna get, oops. I didn't open these colors yet. This is a brand new glitter thing. They're so pretty. I just think they're so pretty together. Okay. You don't have to put as much glitter on as I did, but like I said, you want to make sure it's on there pretty good. And don't worry, I don't know if you can see in here, there's like a line where it almost looks like those two didn't mix. It's okay, because again, you're going to do a second coat, and you're going to do an in-between coat where you're going to mix colors together. So that will actually be gone. I think this might be too much glitter to mix with. So I'm going to pour it actually back in the bottle itself. Maybe I'll pour some of it in there. There we go. I'm going to mix the two colors here. And then I will mix the next two colors in another one. In another Dixie cup here. Okay. Okay. Again, just kind of wipe off your surface a little bit where the Mod Podge isn't anymore. Be careful of doing what I just did, which was put your thumb in it and pull off whatever you have there. It will get covered with another amount. And honestly, you'll be surprised the amount that covers when you resin. You think that you're going to see all this stuff in between. And you really don't. It's amazing how the glitter just shines through those colors. Okay. I think I'm putting too much on because I'm not putting it through the cap that has the little like shaker thing. That's okay though, like I said. I'm gonna mix those together. Anyway, so tap that off. Okay, and again, now I'm gonna put these in another cup. And then I'll take that brown, and since I put half of it in here and I did not put half of it in here, I have to mix now about equal parts. I just kind of judge it by eyeball. Look and see how it looks together. Shake it up. Let's make sure you have equal amounts of each color, black and brown, so one doesn't overtake the other. Looks about good. And then make sure these two have enough of the equal amounts in. Yeah, that looks good. Okay. So now you have to wait for 15 minutes for this to dry in between your next coat. If you do not wait for 15 minutes, I'm trying to get this focus. If you do not get this to wait for 15 minutes, this will not dry. You have to put another coat on here. So I'll be back in 15 and let you see the second coat. Okay, so this has been drying for about 15 minutes. I'm sorry for the change in position of the camera, but my pod broke, and so I had to stick it off to the side, so I apologize. I'll do my best to try to keep it so that you can see what I'm doing. Okay, so I'm just going to add a little bit more Mod Podge in the cup so that I can continue my second dose. Okay. So you want to take your piece and you want to make sure that now that it's dry for the 15 minutes, you want to tap it off. Get anything extra that's kind of just laying there off so that you won't have too much like getting into your Mod Podge or any of that kind of stuff. Okay, so you're going to do basically the same thing you did for the first one, for the second one. You're just going to go back over that section that you're doing lightly with some Mod Podge. And recolor it. Now, you don't need to go crazy. This time, instead of putting them back in Dixie cups, I already have enough to melt the colors together. You're going to put it back in the bottle this time. Okay, now, I don't know if you can see, but I mean, you could leave this just this way. If you like the whole striped effect, or if that's something you're looking for in your particular pattern. I've done a barber shop pole, and with the red, white, and blue, how they go around in a circle. I left them purposely in a line. It made sense to do that. I didn't want to blend them together, because in a barbershop pole, that's how that is. So, but in this case, I'm going to mix it together. I don't want them to be straight lines like that. I want to kind of have them smoothed out a little. I mean, they're not going to be completely, oh, I almost missed on that one. Ombre. Like I said, this isn't really an ombre. It's just kind of a melting them together. I mean, this is the same technique, though, that I would use for an ombre, I can tell you, if I'm doing a tumbler or something. But all right, so now I don't actually wait in between 15 minutes to do this next section, because it is blending the two together. So I'll show you how I do that. Basically, what you want to do is you want to take your Mod Podge. Oh my gosh, Becky, get it together. And you're going to go in between the two colors and make sure you have the right ones together mixed. And you're gonna try. I'm trying to show you here. You're gonna go just in between these two colors and kind of tap it in there with the brush. And once you tap it in, you can smooth it out a little bit. But you want to get both sides of the colors, both the gold and the brown on this particular one. Get some color in there. Again, it doesn't have to be anything, but it's in between the two colors. You can see that. Okay. And then you're going to take your mix of those two colors. So I have my gold and my brown in this cup. Make sure you mix them around really good. And then you just do the same thing. Because they are the two different colors, they mesh really well together. I tap this very lightly just to kind of make sure it's in here. And then what I do is I kind of like tap down this way a little and then tap down this way a little. So it's kind of getting its mesh in between. And then I just kind of slightly brush out. Very, very, very softly. And then you have they're meshed together at the top there. If you feel like there's too much of a line, you can brush it out a little bit. In this case, there might be just a smidgen too big of a line. But be careful, because your Mod Podge is not dry, so you're pulling off some of that Mod Podge. It'll get bumpy, yucky. That's it. Okay. So that's your first one, and then you want to go to your second one. So let's put this mixture back. And you're going to do the same thing. Grab your Mod Podge and go into that line. How big or small you make the line is up to you. How much of that you want to see going through. Now you can feather it out a little bit to make sure that it's gonna get, on more of an ombre look. That's fine too. And then you take your next mixture. Make sure you have them together. I go through these Dixie cups so fast. I get them at the dollar store. I almost thought I had the wrong mixture there. Okay. And tap down that way. Tap down this way. And it's really smooth transitioned from one to the next. I'm not sure if you can see it better. I'm going to probably knock things over here. Let me move my glitter. Let's see if I can get this light a little better for you guys. Let's see. There you go. It's a little better. See how nice and smooth transition that is. And once this is done, I'll put a picture up on the corner for you guys to see what it looks like then. Okay. And now that has to wait 24 pardon me, hours before I can UV resin that. Okay. So I'm going to come back after 24 hours and show you what the finished product will, well, not the finished product. I have to put I'll show you how to do the UV resin. And again, I'm using the UV resin that I got from Amazon. It's Chinese. I'm not sure what it is, but it works really great. Okay, so as soon as I'm finished with the 24 hours, I'll come back and show you how to do the actual UV resin. Stay tuned. Thank you. Okay, guys, I'm back. So it's been a full 24 hours since this has dried from the 2 coats of Mod Podge and glitter. And now we're going to move on to the UV resin part. I have my UV resin sitting upside down because this is a thick coat. It takes a lot for it to come down. It takes too long to sit and wait, so I figured I'd stick it upside down. So basically, I know this is going to be a little bit harder for you guys to see because of the angle of the camera, and I apologize about that. But basically what I do is I kind of like outline the acrylic of what you're doing in that particular thing, and then squirt a bunch in the inside. And then I use my popsicle stick or whatever you're going to use. I am using a hardened paintbrush. There are ones that are silicone that you can get on Amazon or in other different places, craft places and stuff. I think Miniature Sweets is another company that carries them. And they are silicone, so you can just wipe them right off with alcohol. So, as you can see, I'm just kind of running the outline around. If you get this too close to the edges, it will run over. If you get too much on it, it will run over. And I don't know if you can see how, like, streaky that can get sometimes. I use that, actually, to my benefit slightly, and I streak it up around the edge here, because I don't want too much around the hole. I almost, like, drag it. If I get it too much by the hole, it'll fall in that hole, and then you're not going to be able to get that out. I really just stick a big amount on here. Some people prefer to take the lids off these things and just kind of you can always add more. That's the beauty of this. You don't want to put too much on it because then it pools everywhere. This is self-leveling, so keep that in mind when you're doing this. I'm using the paper so that hopefully you can see a little bit better of a background, but generally I use my silicone mat, or I have like a silicone rubber piece from, like, if you're doing like a pot holder or something that's silicone. They also have different ones. They sell them at Walmart that have like little points on them that hold the acrylic in really well. I haven't used those. So let me see if I can show you without it dripping. I just kind of made an outline around the thing, and I'll put a little in the middle. And then I'm just going to slowly bring this out to the edge. You do not want a thick surface the first time, because don't forget you're putting 2 layers on this. You're going to put 1 layer here, put your vinyl on, and then put another layer on. So you do not need thick layers. If you have too much of a thick layer, it will run everywhere. This, again, because it will self-level all the way out to where it needs to. So you're just going to put this out to the edges without pulling it off the edge. So the popsicle sticks also are good. They can pull them out. I just like my brush. I think it works pretty well. It's old. I actually put it in the UV lamp to get it hard, because it was just sticky, because I had used it so many times without it getting harder, so it would just be sticky, sticky, sticky. And I thought, what the heck, I'm just going to harden this. But like I said, with those silicone brushes, they just wipe right off with alcohol, and then you're lucky, because you just have it actually has movement like a brush would, because it's clean and it doesn't ever get hard because you just clean it off with the alcohol. My my pod broke, so it fell off. So I didn't get it. I don't have a chance to have it from an overhead. I was going to make my husband hold it above. So this is what I mean. It's right around the edges, but not over the edges. And now I'm going to take this stuff and move it out throughout the whole thing. And if I need to add more, I can add more. What's nice about the silicone is that it can hold on to the acrylic pretty well. The paper wants to move it, and I'm having a hard time holding it. Normally I would just hold it, but now I'd be in your way. Yeah, I'm going to need some more, I think, for sure. It's not really moving enough over any of this. Probably about half of what I needed on that one. So I will add some more. And you just fill in those holes, fill in those little spots. What I usually do once I get it all, or I think it's pushed where it needs to, and I let it sit for a few minutes just to kind of let it settle where it needs to settle. But I also look like on an angle. If you look on that acrylic on an angle towards the light, you can generally see if there's like pitted areas where you miss some. Also, this is good to see when you're doing getting the bubbles out. So I do see a couple spots where it's a little lower. Again, this particular layer doesn't have to be 100% perfect, as long as it's relatively covered mostly through the whole thing. I mean, if it has a couple bumps, that's okay. Because you're going to be putting another layer on it after you do the vinyl, whatever vinyl you're going to put on it. I think this is covered pretty well. Now I let it sit. Now I am going to take it off this because, and all of the people out there that are going to be like, oh my God, I can't believe she's doing this. I'm sorry, but I am going to do this. I'm going to get the bubbles out. But what I meant is by my computer, people are like, oh my God. So I'm using my torch that I got on Amazon. And you just want to take it over it in fast spreads, because this stuff will catch on fire. I can tell you that by experience. I don't see any more coming up really. You can literally see them pop by with your eyes. Like, you can see them pop up. I can also see that there's two spots here now that look like they need to be pulled to the surface a little bit. But I think that's pretty much it. Okay. Now at this point, what I do, another thing you can do is, I have the foil here, And normally I actually do this on top of a foil, so I don't have to actually pick it up with my fingers and risk moving it around. But I always put foil on the pad of the UV lamp, because if this pulls in any way while it's in there, it will pull on this and harden to this, and then you're gonna have a hard time getting it off. Where on the foil, if it pulls to the foil, generally it'll pull right off pretty easily. As long as it's a flat surface, you're okay. Okay, so I'm going to put this in to the UV lamp. My UV lamp is a 36 watt UV lamp. And in that case, I have to leave mine in a little longer than, say, like a 54. 54, probably you can get away with doing it for a minute or two, and it'll be probably pretty hard. I keep mine in for about 5 minutes. A little longer is okay. It's not going to hurt anything. And then after the 5 minutes, I'll come back. We'll add on the vinyl pieces, and we'll do the second layer, and then I'll show you how to do that. Okay? I'll see you in a minute. Okay, guys. So now it's finished with the first coat of the UV resin. It is, as you can see, very shiny, very smooth, hard, not sticky in any way, shape, or form. You could go right from here and put a keychain on it if you wanted to. You don't have to put any decals on. You wouldn't have to do anything. Of course, now I'm going to do that. Let me move this out of the way here. I just want to show you, if you can see, I mean, it's super shiny and super glittery and super pretty. So you can see that. Now what we're going to do is we're going to put on the, I did a Fur Mama decal. The outside of this was part of the SVG sent with the actual acrylic. The inside, it was all solid, but I didn't want to take away from this pretty glitter design, but I still wanted to be able to see the paw prints. So I sliced it all out individually and got it all on there like that. Now, I will show you, I don't have any paper transfer tape right now. I ran out, and so all I have is the medium tack from 651vinyl.com that he sells, so which I absolutely love. You can do the wet method with this. It is much more difficult to do. You kind of have to like rig it and move it around, try to wing your way through. But once you get the hang of it all together, to me, it seems it's worth it. I don't mind doing it so much on the plastic, but it is so much easier on the paper transfer. So I'm going to get my little squeegee. Now I have a squeegee that has the rubber. On my last video, I had said I wasn't sure if Troy had any with rubber on there. I looked, I didn't see any with rubber. I could be wrong, but I like that this has rubber. It's flexible, and it really it gets onto that acrylic and really can hold it, especially when you're doing the wet. Obviously, a regular squeegee and any of it, that would work on most things, but in this particular situation, I really like to have the rubber. So what I do is, I got this at the dollar store. A pack has a couple things in it, this one, and one that has like this. I have alcohol in this one, and this is my mixture of soap and water. So it has like 2 drops of Dawn dish soap and regular tap water, and then you just shake it up and use it as your wet method solution. So I just kind of spritz it on here. I don't go overboard, but I just make sure it's, the whole thing's pretty wet. Because don't forget, when you take your vinyl off your transfer paper, the backing, it's going to be very sticky. It's going to stick right to whatever surface it wants to stick to. So my F doesn't want to come off of my fur. Or my M, for that matter. Being tricky. Knows I'm on video here, making me look stupid. go. Okay, so plus this gives you room. You can move it around when you need to. So I'm sorry you're not going to be able to see this as well because my hand's going to be in your way, but I'll show you in the end what it looks like. So you can stick it on here. And what's nice is normally if that vinyl was on there and you stuck it there, it's there. You're not moving it. There's no way that's going to move after. But when it's a wet method, it you can kind of move that stuff around a little bit. If need be, you can pick it up and, you know. You can tell, though, if you have water on somewhere and where you don't. Like right there, I didn't have enough water. It doesn't want to move around. So, let me stick this on and see if I can get it on here straight. Looks pretty straight to me. Now, in this moment, if this was paper transfer, all this water that's underneath here would actually be coming up and kind of like evaporating from the paper, which is not evaporating, but it would soak it up in the paper much easier than this plastic does. So you want to kind of get out as much as you can. This really, really helps avoid any kind of bubbles in your vinyl, and I love this method, especially when you're doing something bigger. I'm going to squeegee out the water as much as possible. Now, I've noticed that with the plastic, I still end up having to, when I go to pull this off, I kind of have to guide it along with a, I think I moved it a little, with a tissue, just to kind of get that water off. So now I have it where I have it, and I'm sticking it down, and where I pull it up now, and some of it's not going to want to come up because it's still wet under there. So I take my pin pen, which is a lifesaver. If you don't have one of these, go to 651tovinyl.com and grab a pin pen. It's been my lifesaver in many situations. So now I started getting it pulled out from the corner. I had to like stick it down, but it wants to pull up, as you can see here. It still wants to pull up with the paper, and that's because it's wet. It's wet under there. You're not getting all that water out like you're supposed to, because it's, like I said, it's not the paper. So what I've figured out, that if you're gonna get tissue all over you're not gonna be able to use this piece of paper again, which is fine, or this piece of transfer tape again. But if you dry it, tap it off and dry it out as you are going like this and tapping off all that paper, that water, it will stick then. Get in there. Once again, not the best, but I'm kind of glad I'm showing you guys this in the aspect that, you know, you don't have to run out and get paper vinyl. It certainly helps in the wet method in you know, situation, but it's not absolutely necessary. And honestly, if you're getting your stuff from 651vinyl.com, he has both. He has the paper vinyl and the regular medium tack. There's all sorts of different kinds of transfer tape. Oops, see, worried about my letters, and I didn't realize this isn't coming off on the top here. See, but once you get it down, and I mean, it knows what to do. It knows it's not allowed to go anywhere. It's almost like you would think it has a mind of its own. Yeah. Okay. See, I have tissue all over this now, so this really isn't usable anymore. But then I go over it and just push all that water out. It's all stuck there. And you don't get any, there's no bubbles coming in here. There's nothing coming up. It's all stuck there just as if it was a normal application without the wet method. It's still stuck there just as well. Now I usually make sure that this is really, really dry before you put the next so on there, next layer of 651. Oh, excuse me. I live in Pennsylvania, and I'll tell you that I'm sure all different places have terrible spring allergies. It's really bad here. All my flowers are coming up, and it's beautiful, but I look like a mess. Okay, so there's the fur mama. It's on there. I didn't want to take away from the glitter, but I still wanted some pretty vinyl on there. You can add whatever, you wanted to this. Now that the front's done, now the back, you have the option. Now, this is totally up to you. Okay? So, what you can do, I'm trying to see if there it goes. My phone didn't want to focus there for a second. Now you take this back clear off piece, okay? And you will see at this point that is your back. And it's shiny because it's underneath, the glitter's on the other side. If you are okay with that look and it looks good to you, you don't have to do a single thing. You could be finished on the back. If you are not, and you need to put another UV layer on here, which I did. This was my mistake. I normally do not take this backing off until I'm finished with all the UV resin, because if it drips down onto the back, then I can just pull that paper off and it's done. That was my mistake. I don't know why I did that. I was jumping the gun. I was going to put the back on, forgetting that I have a whole other level of the 651, or I'm sorry, the UV resin on here. Okay, so we're going to actually leave that. Hopefully we won't get any resin on the back. Okay, so now, again, with the UV resin, you're going to do the exact same thing as you did the first time. You're going to go right around the layer, and then pull it in the middle, and then, kind of pull it out to the sides with your brush. Now, I will tell you this, if you're doing vinyl on the front, for this, it's okay because it has spots. There's like area around here for the UV to adhere to. If you have something that is vinyl and it's all the way out to the tips of your acrylic, you're going to have a hard time getting that UV then to hold to anything. It'll hold to the vinyl, but say your vinyl pulls up, your UV is going to come with it. So what I always do is I try to make sure that my designs, my SVGs, are just a smidgen smaller than the acrylic, so that it has a little bit of a gap here that the UV resin can attach to the acrylic. That's just a tip that I prefer to do. Now I just stuck this knot upside down, so it's going to take a little bit for it to come out. There we go. Again, you just go right around the edges. And pour. All the way through here. Okay. Okay. Now you take your brush and again pull out to the sides. Now, some people, when they do these types of things, keychains, they use the thin resin for the first one, and then the thick for the top. And that's, you can do that, that's fine. You're going to have a much easier time finding thin on websites than you are finding thick. The thick resin that I use, that was actually lucky that I found it, to be honest. But the Miniature Sweets sells a thick and a thin. So you can actually get both of them from Miniature Sweets. Miniature Sweets has a lot of different things too. It's a lot of fun. Different things on that website. I feel like it's so quiet in here. I should have music on or something. Sorry guys, I'm boring. I know you can add music to videos like this. I am not a YouTuber. I think I mentioned this in my first one. Never ever intended to be a YouTuber. Just wanting to help people out because I do it and I enjoy it. And I know it can be intimidating. It certainly was intimidating to me. But I figured, you know what? If I don't start it and I don't try it, I'll never ever know if I can actually do it. And you'll never, like, work out your mistakes, you know, without doing it. Without actually trying it, right? You know? Looking to see if I'm missing any spots here. I just like to add a little extra to self-level it. Too much though, don't forget. Now don't forget I'm going to take that little bit and go right around the hole. Okay. Make sure the hole is covered, but not over covered. If you think it's pulling too close to that hole that it's going to fall down, pull a little away from it. It's still covered. It's not going to go anywhere. And the vinyl is all covered. So that's like your main reason for the UV resin is so that the vinyl doesn't actually fall off or come off. It's nice and covered. And, you know, with everyday use, especially with keychains, we're so tough on keychains. You know, we throw them in our purse. We throw them in our book bags. We throw them in the car. Throw them on the counter. We're always really tough with it. So we'll make sure that they're going to last, especially when if you're selling them. You want to sell them and make sure that, you know, their customers, you know, treat them as if you would treat a normal keychain. I feel like there's like a little hole here that doesn't want to, so I'm going to add just a smidgen, just to kind of, there we go. I feel like it all leveled and then right there just kind of valleyed. I want to make sure it does not do that. Now, I don't know if you can see me, my head in here, but I'm like staring at this thing, making sure that I'm getting all the holes in and getting all the pieces. Like I see right here is a totally blank spot. That's why it's important to look at it from different levels and with different lighting and stuff. Like it was completely missed. There was no resin there at all. Ooh, look at that bubble. You have to get that out for sure. You get less bubbles with this UV resin. I do notice that, but then you do like epoxy because you're like mixing epoxy. A lot of times you're actually causing more bubbles than anything, but okay, I think that looks pretty good. Now for video purposes, I'm kind of going through this and doing it pretty fast, like right on, you know. But on reality, what I would do is just kind of let this sit and self-level itself for a few seconds, just to make sure it's not going to overspray to the bot, like to the sides or anything, or you know. I try to pull that off and get some of that off before it starts to really, really pull, and give it some time to kind of self-level. And again, you're going to be using your torch again. And try to get the bubbles out. Okay. You can see them pop before your eyes. Okay. That's good. Okay, so then now this goes back in your UV lamp again for another 5 minutes, or however long your lamp tells you that you need to be curing things for. And then when that's done, I'll show you the finished product, and I'll show you how to put the back on, and you will be dead set, ready to go. Okay, I'll be right back. Okay, so that was in there for 5 minutes, and we have a completely shiny, look at that, isn't it pretty? Beautiful piece. There are pieces right up here where it pulled a little bit, but it's hard. A little bit right in here. Yeah, there's a shoot, and right in the corner here. These two corners and up here. Now, it did pull to the back. So if I would have pulled that piece off, it probably would have pulled it right off. It's not on here like super hard. A lot of times you can pull that off with your X-Acto knife or pin pen. Now I use the X-Acto knife because it's sharper and it can cut. And let me pull this out, lift it up, and I just go around it like this. Go in, cut it around. It'll pop right off on a lot of these things. And if you can see it moving there, it's coming up. Go down on the other side. It just pops off. That's it. Popped off. Super clean there. Go right around the edges. Be careful, don't cut yourself. Now, if it's ever like on the edges of the acrylic, other than pulling, I'm saying, if it's just like around the edges in here, like you can take your X-Acto knife in there and clean up any kind of extra glitter or Mod Podge that has like pulled on the sides that you didn't realize. It literally comes right up. The other thing I can tell you to do, which has helped tremendously, especially for other people, and I know it would help me if I absolutely needed it. People go to like Party City or anything like that, and they get liquid latex. And the liquid latex then will, you take your paintbrush before you do your designs, before you do your acrylic at all, your acrylic piece, and they brush it all over the sides and let that dry. And then when they have done with their epoxy or their UV resin or their triple thick, anything they're using, they literally just pick it up and pull it, and it comes right off, and you have completely clean edges. I haven't necessarily needed to have to do that. I don't know if it's because if it's my particular resin that I like to use that doesn't really, I can control it better. I'm not sure, but I mean, you know, that's really up to you guys. This is so smooth and rock hard. It's like having its own layer of plastic on here. It looks very professional and very good, clean and shiny. It really brings out that glitter too. I think it really, really does. Okay, so the back, you know, you guys know how to apply vinyl. I really don't have to show you this, but here's the thing. If you don't know how to do it, if you're not part of that group or anything, again, like I said, you can keep this like this and not do anything. You can see through it, though, a little bit, in my opinion. People actually will do just glitter acrylics, the whole thing, and then do their vinyl on this side. And that's fine, too. What I do, though... Sorry about that. I had my son come in. You take your pin pen or your stab and grab tweezers, whatever it is, pull up on the edges here, and I fold it over. Pull this part and fold it over so that just the top is coming out of whatever design you're doing, okay? And then just kind of fold it like this. And then you line it up, and once you line it up to that part, the rest of it's going to go with it. You can wet method this as well, and it will cause like a lot less bubbles. I hold on to it. Let me get rid of this foil because it doesn't want to help me move. And then just get it nice and lined up. Hold on to it. And get it nice and straight in there. Once you get it straight in there, and there's nothing, no bubbles or anything, I think I have a little tiny bubble right there. It might be glitter too. You're supposed to, you should really clean this with alcohol first to make sure there's nothing underneath it. Otherwise, you're going to have glitter pieces under there. And then I flip it upside down like this, and then as I peel the back this way, I'm taking my thumb on this one, and I'm kind of going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, all the way through, so that there's no chance for any bubbles or air to get in there. And it'll slide off on its own like this as I'm going underneath it. And I think I'll go like this underneath both sides. And I have this crooked. I'm not even gonna lie. It didn't go on here right, so wet method for me. Other method to do it. Yeah, I definitely have it crooked. Woo! Ladies and gentlemen, ignore that tutorial. Yeah, see, it's super crooked. Like off on that side. Generally, when you have these on here, right? I did mirror this, I think. I may not have mirrored it, and that might be the problem. Other than the fact that I didn't actually pay attention. Some of these SVGs that you get at different places and stuff, they're not exactly the same size either. So what you have to do is you have to go around and you have to take your X-Acto knife and you actually have to like pull it and cut it around. It's cut super smoothly. In this case, I'll probably just redo this piece because I obviously wouldn't want anybody to have one upside down like that. But if you had it in the right section, now you can't just redo it either because it will, it'll get like sticky and bumpy and look like it's all stretched out, and you don't want to do that. So you want to make sure that some people can heat them, they say. I've never tried that, to be honest with you. I've never tried heating my vinyl. It's not that kind of vinyl from what I was told. It's not supposed to be heated like that. So I'm not sure. Again, I would just redo that one. That was me. So, but you didn't have to do it at all. So I just wanted to kind of give you a chance to see what that would look like when there is a piece behind it and you can't see straight through it at all. It's really, really beautiful. It really, really is pretty. And I will show you a picture of this in the end product. But there you go. That's how you put a UV resin and glitter on an acrylic. So if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. Comment below. I will try to get back to you if you have any questions. If you want me to do any more tutorials on anything, or you want me to show you anything more, I'd be more than happy to do that. That should be it, though. Thank you very much for watching, and hopefully I have taught you something, even if it was what not to do. Okay. Thank you very much. You have a great day. Take care.